Welcome to Brew with Miss Baritone. I'm your host, Chicky Baritone, and this is my podcast. I'm gonna give it to you all black, no creamer, no sugar, no honey. So join me as I brew up some life-giving conversations with some dope people. Welcome to Brew with Miss Baritone. I am very excited about my next guest. She is an award-winning journalist, and she has a segment on Pastor Linny's Praise Party, 96.9 FM, based out of South Carolina.
Yes, it is based out of Greenville, South Carolina. The blessing of it all is it airs in Greenville and it airs in almost 20 other markets across the country.
So it's syndicated.
Really a blessing, yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so great to see you.
It is wonderful to see you.
I think the last time I saw you, we were occupying in one of our favorite pastimes. I was at TJ Maxx.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that you are a big TJ Maxx fan too.
I am.
So.
Yes, I am. You know, Rhonda, I deem you as the voice of Greenville. Oh, that's what I say.
Thank you so much.
I do, because your voice is memorable. And people say that about me when they hear poetry. Mm-hmm. So I naturally attract or listen out for voices.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
And so before ever physically meeting you and moving to Greenville, and when you were a part of 107.3 Jams, and you had a segment there doing community announcements, I was like, her voice.
Oh, wow.
I know you have northern roots, but you have the voice of a southern hummingbird. And so you hear your voice, and then I physically meet you, and I'm like, I knew the voice before I saw the person. And so you have always kind of been etched in my mind as the voice of Greenville for me.
I love that. And thank you so much for that. I think too, it just shows how God has really preordained our lives.
Oh my gosh.
From the time before we were born, He put inside us, a dream.
Yeah.
And when we fulfill that dream, it's so easy for other people to see it.
Yeah.
Because I've always wanted to be in broadcasting. And people would talk about my voice from when I was really, really small. Wow. Right. And so that's always a blessing to me when people say something about my voice, because I know that it's God that has given that to me.
It's attractive in the sense that it works so well with wanting to engage community. And that's one of those God things.
Yes.
So He lined you to have this amazing voice, created you with this voice, and people listen, not just for content, but it has a way of attracting people.
I love it.
And I also believe that's a lot of times why I feel with the work that you've done in the community has you in the forefront, and people are matching that voice to that person. So, your contribution to Greenville is amazing and still growing. And so I'm grateful and honored for this moment to be able to sit down and talk to you is an honor.
Oh, and to talk to you is an honor as well. When you reached out to me and asked me to do it and told me it was in Atlanta, I was like, yes, I will drive.
Wow.
2.5 hours because of the blessing that you have been and for the things that you have done. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. So Rhonda, take me back to you making the decision to move from money earning Mount Vernon.
I love that so many people know that
money
term.
Earning Mount Vernon. Listen, the 90s R&B rap and Heavy D is the reason why we know it to be money earning Mount Vernon.
And I love it so much. And Heavy D himself was just one of the loveliest individuals that you could ever meet. I love in Mount Vernon right now that there is a mural for Heavy D and the Boys. It's beautiful. And so, so money earning Mount Vernon. So I grew up in Mount Vernon, which is a suburb of right outside of New York City. Okay. From where I grew up in Mount Vernon, I could walk 2 blocks and be in the Bronx. So I had the best of both worlds.
Wow. Okay. And so, I know a little bit about that area. Yeah. When I go to New York, I go to South Bronx.
Okay. Yep.
I have family by marriage that's there.
So you could take that train all the way in from Grand Central Station in New York City, through Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, up to upstate New York. So grew up in Mount Vernon. Both my parents were native New Yorkers. My dad is from Harlem. My mom born and raised in Mount Vernon. I'm an only child. Had amazing parents who made things just wonderful and my world magical.
Yeah.
I think too, because they were older parents, they always, tried to do everything they possibly could to just give me the best life possible. And they did.
Wow.
And so always had this dream to work and somehow combine broadcasting with entertainment. But also when I was young too, I wanted to play baseball for the New York Yankees.
Really?
I was playing Little League and
Wow.
really athletic and everything. So, but really my passion was broadcasting.
Wow.
And so in my, I guess, junior high school years, I did some modeling, always trying to dabble in that industry. And so went away to college at Temple University.
Nice.
I majored in radio, television, and film. And then even while I was in college, I did internships because I always wanted to try to do something to, study my craft, learn the industry more.
Yes.
Because people always will tell you it's called show business. And a lot of times people just see that word show, but it's a business. And so really, really being intentional about learning that. So during my college years, I worked for CBS Records.
Nice.
As a college representative. I got to interview a lot of the different artists that came through our area and did an internship at New Line Cinema one summer when I came home to New York. And then when I graduated, and I'm going way back now, so I'm trying
you
to
good.
remember all my steps. So when I graduated, New Line Cinema offered me a job.
Wow.
And it was for a movie called Deep Cover.
I remember Deep Cover.
Yeah, Deep Cover. And so I went out to Los Angeles, had to move to Los Angeles, which was always one of my dreams.
Okay.
Moved out to Los Angeles, worked on the film Deep Cover. I was moved from, I think I started as an intern, and I moved to production assistant, which is the job where you're copying scripts, you're delivering scripts to the actors' homes, all this. And so on that film, if you remember, it was, we called him Larry back then, Larry Fishburne. Now he's called Lawrence. But Larry Fishburne, I would deliver scripts to him. I remember he had like this really cool place in Venice, California. And when I would go to deliver the scripts, he would like sing my name out the window. It was just fun times. And worked on that film with Clarence Williams III, who's known for the Mod Squad, and Glenn Turman, all these legendary actors, and Jeff Goldblum as well, legendary. And so that was my first job. When that movie was over, I started interviewing for other positions, and my next job was on the television series Rock.
Which I
ROC.
loved.
Great experience.
I love that show. Really like a lot of people don't remember Rock, but Rock was a really good.
Charles Dutton, Ellen Joyce, and Rocky Carroll, who's doing incredible things still right now. Rocky, I think, is on the TV show. Oh my gosh, NCIS, one of those.
Okay, I'm not really familiar
NCIS,
with
I believe, but so yeah, worked on that show, and then eventually. Moved back to New York, worked on the Chris Rock show. But in this time, I was like, this is great. I'm working behind the scenes on all these great movies and TV shows. I did work with Robert Townsend on his show. But I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what I really want to do is I want to combine entertainment with news somehow. I want to be, on the air. Yeah. And so my key is that, and stop me anytime because I can talk.
Oh, no, you're good. You're segueing right into where I want you to be, but go ahead.
So my key was I always want to try to be doing something that will have me ready when my time comes. And so I was, different actors that I worked with, I would ask them if they would do mock interviews with me. So I would interview all these different actors, and I would go to sports events and interview sports figures. Dave Justice was one who really helped me with interviews. The actor Leon, Jim Kelly, who was known from all the great movies of the 70s. So did a lot of practice interviewing at that time.
So that's good to know because I think a lot of people, especially when you went from studying it to now having to put it in motion. what does that really look like? And I read where you had a full circle moment with one of your celebrity radio interviews with Common. And
yes,
in
recently.
that interview, you make the statement, or the post basically said, you know, I was super nervous, but I learned a lot. And I'm listening to this snippet and I'm like, nervous where? Like,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
because we always have this depiction of what nervousness sounds like, right?
And we always critique ourselves more than anybody else critiques us.
Absolutely. So when you think about that interview, what did you learn from it when you now listen to it, or what was the lessons learned? And then when you had your full circle moment, which a lot of times you don't always have a full circle moment, tell me what that felt like.
So what Miss Baritone is referring to is that, so with 107.3 Jams, fast forward when I came to South Carolina, worked in radio, and my first on-air celebrity interview was with Common, who I had always admired. That song, The Light, is one of my favorite songs ever. But he was doing a movie called Just Right. With Queen Latifah. And I had worked it out where I set up an interview with him where he would call into the radio station. And it was my first ever doing it on the air, me recording it in there by myself. And I was kind of a ball of nerves. And he was a little bit late to the interview, and I'm thinking, okay, he's not going to do it. And then finally the phone rings and he calls, and he was so apologetic. He was like, I'm so sorry, I'm running late. This happened. And then it just, I had to go right into it. Right. So you have to really, and it's so funny because I was reading a book by Michelle Obama on the way over here, The Light We Carry. And she talks about how you have to push through your nerves. And so I did that. I pushed through my nerves. I did the interview. It came out pretty good, I think. When I look back on it now, I can hear the sort of the beginner in my voice, but that and doing it and pushing through my nerves, being intentional about just pushing myself to push through, really helped me with every subsequent interview after that. And so I really had, and that's important to me. Because that's how you get through things. That's how you get through your fears, is just doing it. And so flash forward, I don't know how many years later, 11 years later, I was in New York City, and Common was doing his first Broadway play. I don't know if you know, but Common has, I think it's Emmy, Grammy, Oscar. So he only has the T left to go before he EGOT. So I was able to meet with him after the show, and I told him that story and said, thank you so much for, being my first on-air interview. Told him how nervous I was, and then I told him, some of my accomplishments since then. But really credited that first interview for helping me push through, and he was really so appreciative and gave me a hug and really appreciated me telling him that story. So it is really my goal to go back to anyone that has ever been an influence or an encourager in my life and let them know. So I've had the opportunity to do that a couple of times, and it's really important for me to.
Super amazing. And the lessons are going to come. It's a matter of us not being so hard on ourselves. This strive for perfection when we're doing whatever we're doing, but not realizing that, the success literally comes through what we quote unquote call failures, or those not so great moments. You can go back and you can learn, and it's really okay. I don't know why we feel like, perfect execution just has to be that way every time and everything in every way. And we're afraid of this not sounding so perfect. And a lot of it is just projected. Because people see you a certain way, people see me a certain way. I've messed up poetry, people wouldn't even know it. And I'm in the back and I'm like, dang it, I messed that up. But then everybody comes like, oh, that was so good. And then for me, it's like, okay, so you're putting the pressure on yourself, and it's okay. But there are things like, even with this podcast, I had an idea in mind, and it has taken on a shape of its own, and I have to go with it. Weather today, interviews being delayed or whatever, you roll with it.
You do.
Because those are things that are out of your control, you know? And so it took age and living to kind of rest in that and allow God to show you the lessons in it. So
most definitely.
I just appreciate it though. It does. It makes me better at what I do, and it does make me hungry to learn more. So
that's the key too.
It's got to be pretty incredible because everybody doesn't land the interviews, Rhonda. You know, it's when you say show business, you know, you can't just sit back
Right.
and wait for it to drop in your lap because you may have had one great interview. So how did you keep the momentum going? You got this desire and this love for it, but how do you keep it going? You've been able to do this for a while.
I'm pretty persistent.
Yeah, that's good.
My son is here. You can ask him. Like if I have an idea in my mind and I want to do something, I am researching every way to be able to get it done.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning before about not always striving for perfection. Of course, we want to, but there is also beauty in imperfection.
Yes, it is.
And when you're making mistakes, there's a quote, and I hope I don't get it wrong, that says, if you fall, make it part of your dance. Right? So
good.
don't look at every failure can teach you something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just really persistent when it comes to the things that I want and the things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And so that is how it kept occurring. So the interview with Common, I think maybe a year or so later, a young man was introduced to the Carolina Panthers named Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking, you know, how can I make what I'm doing, how can I set myself aside from maybe someone who's done it before or the norm? And I liked football, kind of. I wasn't a huge football fan.
Right.
But I said, this might be something interesting. Let me see if I can call the Carolina Panthers and become a part of their media crew and or let them have me on there to come out for media. And maybe I can get an interview with this guy there, Cam Newton. And so I reached out to the Panthers a few times. Maybe on the third or fourth time, they got back to me and they were like, sure, you know, we'll put your name on our media list. You can come out and cover practice and games. And eventually I did a little one-on-one with Cam Newton. And so that is just persistence.
Yep.
If you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no.
That's exactly
But
right.
I ask, even if I feel you got to do it, even if your voice is shaking.
Yes, ma'am.
And so from that persistence, I went on to not only cover their practices and their games, I went to the Super Bowl with the Carolina Panthers.
Wow.
They had me come to the Super Bowl with the media team.
Wow.
And so and that was in San Francisco. What an incredible experience.
I can only imagine. But you know, persistent good will break down barriers.
Yes.
Barriers don't break down because you hit it one time and now it's going to fall and crumble.
You have to keep,
you have to keep knocking at it. And that is, I credit to a lot of my work ethic because I keep going. And I share those sentiments. No is just not now. That's how I feel when I hear no. Or it's going to come from a different door, different direction, and it's not for now.
That's the key. You might have said no, but let me see who else is involved in this that I can get my resume to, get my bio to, get, you know. So, yes.
Yeah, not stopping, you know. Has there ever been, when you think about the interviews you've done, any weird situations or awkward interviews and the clock started ticking and you got 20, 30 minutes ahead of you and something happened to make it awkward? In the journalism world, how do you work through that? What did you do if you ever had that encounter?
Wow, I can't think of anything awkward, but I can think of interviews that I've had that people give you like a yes or no answer. Like it's just very, and you're thinking, okay, I need to just.
Rhonda,
so it's just,
Yeah.
So I can't think of anyone in particular, but I've had quite a few people. And I think it's just because of their nervousness.
Oh, yeah, sometimes.
And so you talk to them a little bit more and maybe they start to open up a little bit more. Or you say something jokingly like, you got to give me a little bit more than that, something. But yes, those types sort of make me like, oh gosh.
And that's, you know, and I say, as I've ventured into this, because I do love to engage with people. And when, God dropped this vision of doing this podcast, I overstudy. I like to take the burden away. And I always prepare myself that if I do get the yes and no responses, you got to carry this interview.
Right.
So you got to be prepared to carry it, and you have to overstudy, over prepare, overstudy in order to fill those gaps.
Right.
But I have watched several people that I admire in the journalism world to see how they navigate through that. So who are some of the people that you like to watch that give interviews that you have been inspired by?
Oh, wow. Oprah, of course.
Yeah.
She puts people just at complete ease. I like Katie Couric. I grew up in New York watching, her name is Rhonda Watts. And she had a talk show at one point, Rhonda.
Okay.
But I would see her as a young person and think, I want to do that. Like, I want to, do what Rhonda Watts is doing. And it's so funny, like later on, I was working somewhere. I was working at a part-time job, and someone came up to me and they started calling me Rolanda. Like, they had no idea, but they knew who Rhonda Watts was. But I just thought that was funny. But yes, she kind of actually maybe spurred my interest watching her do the news. She was a news anchor.
Oh, nice. Nice.
In New York City. And so Oprah, Rhonda Watts, Katie Couric. I don't know if you've ever watched CBS Sunday Morning. I love those types of shows where it's just like interviews and then a little public affairs and fun. People.
And it's like really good nuggets that you kind of can pull from those things. But it's really, to me, because you have been doing it over some time, especially in the 90s, and looking at what journalism has turned into now. Now you have TikTok journalists.
That's true. That's true. Well, it is, and I think I'm on TikTok. I never use it.
Really?
I don't. I'm a big Instagram person.
Okay.
And Facebook, but I love Instagram and I love Reels, and it's just fun to me.
Yeah.
But yes, you do have TikTok journalism. Some people do it really, really well.
Yes.
We have, I think his name is Antonio Modesto.
Okay.
And he has a TikTok page, and he's not from Greenville. I think he's from New York too, but he lives in Greenville and has maybe 1 million followers.
Wow.
And he does these little things where he's reporting, and you might see somebody's face in the background, and you see his face down here.
Yeah.
Like the last one he did was something about Women's History Month, and it was profound and really good. And I think Viola Davis retweeted it.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people really have this negative view of social media, but if used correctly, it can really be and is an informative platform. It's all in who you choose to follow. You don't want to go down a rabbit hole of negativity and that type of thing. But I choose to follow positive, encouraging people who, add something to my day.
Yeah. Do you think that the direction in which you're seeing journalism go, with more Black people being in the forefront, do you feel like it has gotten better or gotten to a place to where you see more representation? And if you don't see that, then what do you think with all this access, why do we still not see as much representation?
I think we may be seeing a little bit more representation. I think the representation that we see a lot of times are, of course, those big names.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing a little bit more representation. I think, too, that maybe we can push the journalism side a little bit more, maybe with kids in elementary school, going up that way. To know that this is a possibility for you.
Yes.
It's just really opening people's eyes to, especially our young people, opening their eyes to all that they can be.
Yes.
And so I think that's a way that we can increase it a little bit more.
Right.
And also when we're in those positions, like the position that I'm in now, I love to go out and speak at schools, or maybe I mentor a lot so that someone else who is coming up behind me, I don't want to go through the door alone. I want to pull somebody else up too,
yes, absolutely.
so that they can realize their goals and their dreams. And so it's all about those who are in the positions really not just being in isolation and, keeping it all to themselves, but in sharing what other people have shared with them. There are people who pulled me up and gave me an opportunity that I'll be forever grateful for.
Absolutely.
And I talk about those people all the time and let them know you were the one that helped me move through this door. Like when I first came to Greenville, I applied to 107.3 Jams.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to be on air. That's what I wanted to do. But I didn't let them know that in the beginning. I just applied for like an administrative position because I figured everybody is going to go in there and say, I want to be on air.
Wow. Okay.
And so went in for this position, and this is how God works. It was with Kelly Mack, who was there at the time.
Yeah.
And I got in, and she's like, oh, this position is for an administrative thing, but have you ever done news? That's exactly what she said. And I never mentioned one word. And she's like, do me a favor. She pulled up a news story. She was like, write this news story over in your own words. And then I'm going to put you in the studio so you can record it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like this is my shot. Dang. And I've never been in a recording studio to record my own stuff. So I got to do it right the first time. Because if I don't know how to erase it and go back into it again.
Dang.
So I wrote the story over in my own words. I pressed the button and I recorded it. And I called her back in and she's like, you're done already? I'm like, yes. I didn't tell her yes because I don't know what I'm doing. I just said, yes, I'm done.
Right.
So she listened to it, and then she went and got her boss, who was Steve Crumley at the time.
Wow.
And she brought him in, and he listened to it. And he said, have you never done this before? And I'm like, I have not done it professionally, but I've been preparing for it my whole life.
I need y'all to get that.
Like I've been preparing for this moment my whole life. When I was a kid, I'd be talking into, spoons and hairbrushes and everything, acting like I was doing the news.
That's right.
When I moved on to California, I was using everybody that I could to help me rehearse for it.
Yes.
So he listened to it and he just said, if you want this job, you have it.
Full circle moment.
And so with him, Steve Crumley, who I hope is listening, so this was my first time on the air, radio, doing news.
Yeah.
So he and I would do the news from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. So I'd have to be in the studio at 5:30 in the morning every day. And so I'd do the news and the phone in the studio would ring and it would be Steve. And he would always say like 2 positive things like, wow, that was a really great story. Oh, wow, you sounded really great here. Maybe see if you could do this. So he would always start off with the positive and then guide me in a way to show me what area I could get better in.
Wow.
And
awesome.
so yes. And so in that area, I have to say thank you to him.
Yes.
For those morning phone calls.
Yeah.
I did, after a while, I told him he would need to stop calling. This is too much. Like sometimes he would call and say, what was that? After we got more comfortable with each other. I'm like, it was a mistake.
Right.
Like, exactly. Yeah. But so yes, so people that really, that's really, really key is that when you get into a position that you've always wanted, don't forget about the people who are dreaming of it just like you were.
Exactly. And I always push mentorship. And I think a lot of times young people think that mentorship is only while you're in school.
No.
It is a lifelong, it should be a part of your priority in life is to have a mentor in areas of your life that you desire to be in or ways you want to be better, because with mentorship, and I will always hear this, you're going to learn life through 2 ways, either by lessons or through a mentor. And a lot of times someone has already taken the hit for that lesson. So I just really still push making sure that you have someone there to guide you, because even with the degrees, right? The internships and experiences, they're all great, but somebody has gone about 4 or 5 more steps ahead of you.
Right.
And that guidance, a lot of times what I tell my mentees, it's a cycle that didn't change. A lot of things that happened 20 years ago in engineering is still the same. You know, you're not going to, it's all of a sudden going to be different because you're now in it, you know, so I can appreciate that. But Rhonda, this has been my absolute pleasure.
I can't believe the time has flown by like that.
Listen,
That was
I wanted to go 30 more minutes.
Oh, thank you so much. I
This
so
has
appreciate
been
it.
such a joy and an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that you got before you. You've got some great stuff behind you, but man, I can't wait to see what you have before you.
I have to say, I'm excited.
Absolutely.
And I'm so thankful for it all. And I know you do as well, so I'll be watching.
Thank you. Y'all give it up for Miss Rhonda Rawlings.
Thank you.